Well, okay. I'm going to speak. And before I say this...
Yeah, I know. Speak.
I have been silent for the past 30 minutes, right?
I'm sorry.
I guess here's what I want to do. I really want to preface this. And this is not anything I have any kind of concrete, oh, look, smoking gun. This is not me saying this is what is happening. This is me asking a question. Only a question that I have no answers to. I only have speculatives. I only have our past behavior to look at and say, So that is the whole thing. I'm prefacing and taking 5 minutes to say lots of prefacing words because I don't want this to be taken out of proportion into weird ways or to, I don't have my tinfoil hat down here anymore. I'm not one of those truly tinfoil hat people, but here's my question. Welcome to the 42 Podcast, where we discuss life together, looking for answers to life, the universe, and, well, everything else. Here are your hosts, Rob and Lindsay.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Lindsay.
How you doing?
Yep, there we go. We're going at it at the same time again.
We do that. How are you? Welcome back from vacation.
I am tired.
Did
so very tired. It was a good vacation.
Did you actually get to spend time on the beach, or?
Yeah, we got 2 days on the beach and got to fly some kites. I got to put my drone up and get some neat pictures. And I tried going in the ocean with my knee, which proved really fun. Yeah. I'll say fun.
Well, you were pretty buoyant. The ocean, I find to be.
Next time I'll make it rain tiny
oh no!
Like a mouse testicle.
Shush!
Did I just hear that right? Did I hear? Did I hear the word? Did I?
Yeah. So I got an Apple Watch and I have. It's called the Carrot Weather app, and it gets snarky and sarcastic on you, and dark humor. I've got to change that because it most definitely I bump it at most weird, inappropriate times.
Definitely just
like family dinner. I was sitting there for family dinner. I was like, oh, just shush, you evil app.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I got to change some of the settings on that. Or the other weird one is I also have the Mickey Mouse watch face on mine, and when you tap it, it's Mickey's voice telling you the time, and good morning, buddy. And I did that one in church yesterday, and I was like, yeah. So.
Wow. You're so.
Yeah.
That's surprising. Well, no, actually, it's not surprising. It's just that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to change the settings on that. I really need to. But anyway. But yes, we got some beach time, and it was good time as a family, and good trip.
Good.
It was.
Did you end up on the beach? You did, and you were in your...
Yeah,
Did you read a book? Did you read any books?
I intended on getting some reading done, and it just never panned out.
Yeah.
Ever. The car ride, we would be talking, or we'd be driving around. Like, we also did Williamsburg and Yorktown, so we were driving around the battlefield and getting in and getting out, and so my reading never panned out the way I thought it would. I actually have done no beach reading. And some of that was just me with my knee. I did a lot of shell hunting on the beach. You dig a hole and let the sand wash in and out, and it's a good way to find shells. And yeah, but I never got the beach reading, I thought.
That's like the whole reason I go to the beach is to read.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that's only when I don't have kids with me, but...
See, now, my other thing is I really do like swimming in the ocean, getting out there and swimming not too deep, not... further than my wife is comfortable with, further than my kids are comfortable with. I can't quite touch the bottom, but I can float around and ride the waves and have fun. I couldn't do that this time with my knee. I couldn't get past the waves. I tried, and I got knocked down and twisted around with one wave, and then had to get myself knocked back up onto my feet with another wave. It was a different ocean experience for me.
You got knocked down, but you got up again. They're never going to keep you down.
You ain't never going to keep me down. Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. So,
talk to me.
Anyway, you and I are going to have a conversation today, and before we really kind of start that conversation, I think it's fair for us to kind of pull back a bit and open with a statement, open with a very intentional statement. With what we're going to talk about today, you and I are truly sitting in a position of armchairs and giving feedback without ever having put any kind of skin in this game. And we're going to be talking on some things that are very emotional right now for a lot of people. This is still a very fluid circumstance. We're recording this a week after everything has begun happening. I don't know what this will look like in a week when this episode releases. So we're armchairing this in a lot of ways. And first and foremost in all of this, thank you to our veterans, to the men and women who have fought over the years, over the generations. Thank you. And thank you to the men and women who, with this topic today, you guys have put your lives on the line.
And not just our military, but the French military and the British military. You guys are in the thick of it right now trying to get your people out, and we honor you and respect so much what you're doing. And thank you for your service.
Yeah. And, if you haven't gotten it yet, we're talking about Kabul and what's happening in Afghanistan right now. But I want to do one of those kind of left turn introductions to this in some way, because it's a framing of how I have been trying to think about this, not just from my perspective, but from another perspective. And Lindsay, are you familiar with the Heaven's Gate cult?
I think so, yeah. Are they they're the Comet people that they committed suicide?
Yep, 1997, Hale-Bopp was the Comet.
Right, yeah.
And it was on Hale-Bopp's closest approach, they committed suicide, believing that in their deaths they would be taken up to or into, I forget how it was exactly, into the comet and delivered from whatever their belief structure was, and so on. And so it was a mass suicide that happened. It feels weird to start our conversation with this, but my connection into it was that when that happened, it was in March of 97, when that happened, I remember where I was and wrestling with it. I would have been right around 11, 12 years old, which is my son's age now. And we were on vacation, driving to Walt Disney World in Florida. But we were going through the Great Smoky Mountains. And I had gotten up and I was helping my dad get the van loaded, and we went in to go check out from the hotel, and that was on the hotel TV screen.
Mm.
And that just started filling the news cycle for the day of what the Heaven's Gate occult had done. And it made an impression on me because I started wrestling with what they had done on vacation. Well, I'm on vacation.
I see.
So we're driving to Florida, driving to a place that we're excited to get to, but there's this new introduction into my life of people think and do that because of a belief structure. Now, the insight for me is sitting in a hotel in the breakfast space with all of my family, my father, my mother, and my kids, Melinda, and the news cycle starts with the fall of Kabul.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the news screen right there in the breakfast space, and Dad and I are getting alerts and buzzes on our phones with the news sites that we follow, and we start talking about that, and my son is sitting right there, And he starts wrestling with it. What is this new thing? What does this mean? How does this impact me? Does this have an impact for me? As we're going towards vacation, towards Myrtle Beach, towards Williamsburg. Actually, we were in Williamsburg at that point. And I don't know, it was an interesting kind of moment for me to pause and reflect on that mindset as I wrestled with the Heaven's Gate stuff at that age, but now looking at my son who's even wrestling with something that predates him, a war that has predated him, and now he's seeing the end result of that conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an interesting beginning reflection, because you and I mean, we're going to talk about this closer, but we were both in our teens when 9/11 happened.
Yep. I was in high school.
And yeah, so we each have clear and distinct memories, and we're going to talk about that in another week or so, as the 20th anniversary comes up, and where we were, what we were doing, and our impressions. But then we even remember that invasion in October, and the beginning of what has been the longest standing conflict in our modern history as a country.
Yeah. Yep. I remember the controversy in my history class. We discussed it quite a bit, about whether it was good or bad to go into Afghanistan, and my teacher didn't like the idea, and she said, we're never going to get out of there. They're going to be in there for the rest of your lives. Or something to that effect. And so this has been a part of our lives since I think I was 14 or 13 or something. So, and it's just been kind of devastating. It's been really hard to hear these terrible, it's the people in Afghanistan who are so terrified that they're literally throwing their kids over the barriers so that their kids don't have to grow up under the Taliban. And I mean, there's horror stories out there, and it's just sick. It's just really sickening.
Yeah, I saw some of the things that are happening at Kabul with the story that you just referenced, where some women were trying to throw their children over the fence to British soldiers to just get them out of this conflict, to get them away from the fighting, to hopefully get them to a safe haven country where they could grow up free of. And, a lot of the articles I'm seeing and reading are talking about the generation that grew up just outside of the Taliban regime, that have experienced more freedoms, more education, more liberties.
Yeah.
But now they're about to be lost. And
yeah.
That's a hard piece of what's going on.
The women.
Yeah.
These women who have been in school and being, I was listening to one reporter, I think it was Clarissa Ward from CNN. She was saying how they had been successful in getting a boarding school full of girls out, and which is amazing. But a lot of these, I heard that, that the Taliban is marking you have to mark your house with an X if you have any daughters under the age of 12. And if there is no X on your house, and they find a daughter in your house, they will execute your entire family. It blows the mind, and I don't even really know, how to get into this, really, because there's so much about it. There's the fact that at least one intelligence report had indicated in July that this is exactly what would happen. Exactly what would happen. They didn't exactly know how fast it would happen, but they knew. And,
yeah, I think there are two ways that we have to think about it. maybe maybe three. I think first and foremost is the reality of our political system that has exacerbated and caused this. And I will say this flat out, and I will stand by this. I'm not going to point fingers and say, oh no, it's the Republicans, or oh no, it's the Democrats. It's all of them. Period.
It's the system.
Yeah, they made what is the lives of people somewhere else. They've made it a game for political gain.
For a headline.
You know, the push to, and this is both sides, because before Biden was president, Trump was pushing for this. I mean, it was political gain for him to try and get the troops out. When Biden became president, it was the same thing. It was political gain to try and get the troops out by the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah.
To be able to look and say, we're done.
Yeah.
So both sides have looked at this and said, political gain, political gain, political gain. We will.
Yeah.
And
right. The difference being that Trump said, "Oh, that's a terrible idea. We can't do this." He was quoted saying, "We can't just pull out. It would be awful." I mean, that's not the direct quote, but that's essentially what he was saying.
He did negotiate the ceasefire and the withdrawal of troops with the Taliban.
And that's cool.
I
mean, yeah, but the Taliban didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and it fell through. And I don't think that's bad, do you? What he did?
I think it was naive, and I think it was going into an election year. And that's where I'm not looking, and I'm not going to say... Yeah, it was going into an election year and being able to say, look what I did. I negotiated the ceasefire. I negotiated the troop withdrawal. And, you know, I'm sorry, I don't care which president it would have been under. I think this is how it would have gone either way. Biden or Trump. I think this is how it would have gone.
I'm the president that ended the war.
Right. And Afghanistan is such a complex country with the history of resistance and fighting and upheaval. I mean, in the 50s, they had a king. The king was assassinated. The guy who assassinated the king became the president. And then 5 years later, he's assassinated by communist supporters who then, you know, Russia invades to support the communists who are trying to rule Afghanistan. And that starts a 10-year-ish war.
Yeah. And
in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And that's kind of where this all started, because from what I understand, the CIA funneled money to these different, we called them freedom fighters back then because they were fighting against communism. But that's where the Taliban came from, is these, what do you call it? Grassroots freedom fighters, sort of organizing themselves better.
Yeah, and I think Taliban in the original language, I'd have to find where I read this. I think in the original language it means student.
Yeah, I heard disciple, so same thing, yeah.
And, you know, it was a group of young men who are now old men radicalizing and rallying young men again under that kind of control and the ideas and ideals that they'll be... It's a power dynamic that is just tempting, but never ends well for anyone who ever goes that route with seeking power. And that's a whole conversation in and of itself of what that looks like, what that is, and how that plays out with how you gain power. But even predating the Russian invasion, I mean, England for a period of time. Back in the 1800s, tried to invade at two different points Afghanistan, tried to bring the people under heel then, under colonialism, and that didn't work. I mean, Afghanistan's nickname is the Empire Breaker, because empires invade and then collapse. Or begin a period of collapse, because the terrain in Afghanistan is difficult, the people in Afghanistan are difficult. And it's not to say that they're not incredible people. It's just that they're a hard people because of the region that they live. It's a mountain desert.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned, so 3 ways of looking at this, and the first one was how screwed up our political system is.
Yeah, and the gains that they tried to make in the propaganda of Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both sides have screwed it up every chance they could.
Right.
And I think that's one of the more important ways that we need to look and discuss about it. And not, oh no, it's, my team didn't do it wrong. No, both teams did it wrong. Both sides did it wrong. Don't give me that.
Yeah.
The other way we need to also look at it is the men and women who have fought and sacrificed and been in country and worked with these people, fought against these people, lost limbs, lost friends, lost lives, and understand that where things stand right now with them is not okay.
Yeah. Yep.
This is, they went in as young men and women for a fight for those people, for our country. And we just kind of, okay, great, bye.
We've destroyed. We broke Afghanistan. I mean,
not only did we break Afghanistan. Go ahead.
Well, there's been people that have, grown these relationships with their interpreters in Afghanistan, or the people, all kinds of diplomats and workers and people. I'm blanking, but the military had this relationship with these Afghanistans, and a lot of the Americans have gotten out, but they're saying, my friend, my family are still in Afghanistan, and they're going to be killed. They are going to be killed because they were a translator or an interpreter.
And that's the final area where I think the worst atrocities are happening right now.
Yeah.
Is that even if we get thousands out at Kabul airport, we've abandoned the people.
I can't even fathom the betrayal that Afghanistan is feeling. I cannot even fathom. These people that gave their blood in their life, sometimes the majority of these people's lives. If they went in at 18, or if they started working at 18, this has been their whole life, and now the U.S. is slammed the door. I just...
Well, you brought it up earlier, but the young women who are, anywhere from 12 to 24-ish, these are women who have begun to experience freedoms because of America coming in and the invasion, the ousting of the Taliban, and the liberalizing and the westernization that we've brought.
Yep.
The fact that they were able to go and learn to read and write, learn.
Gotten PhDs,
I sent you an article while I was on vacation, and I'll have to find it again, from The Guardian. That was, it was a woman talking about the rise of the Taliban in Kabul and how she had to get home, how she's hiding her degrees, how she's hiding her identification papers, or some women are burning them.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the last part that is the worst part to sit with, because the politicians played with lives. We sent soldiers who died and bled in that country, and now we have entirely left it to its own means. And within a week of the majority of our pullout, it collapsed. Within a week.
Within 36 hours, wasn't it? It was so...
The outer district started collapsing, or the outer region started collapsing and falling to the Taliban. And, oh, no, Kabul will stand for 6 to 2 years, or whatever the estimates were. And I guess that's part of my frustration as well of, wait a minute, we kept saying that Kabul will stand, and then it didn't? Did we overestimate? Did we pull out too quickly? Did we not leave the supply chain and resources they needed? I mean, the Taliban is now showing off their marvelous American-made M4 1A2s or whatever it is. I forget what the rifle is. They're showing off their machine guns that they've gotten that are American, and the Humvees, and we left them Black Hawks? We left them Black Hawk helicopters?
Mm-hmm.
So the Taliban's having a field day, so they had the resources, but it had to be more than resources that we took from them, more than the physical resources. Why that collapse?
Yeah. So you probably, I know you know this, but this is just, I guess, more for everybody else's benefit, whoever doesn't know. But the way the U.S. and the Afghan military worked together was cooperatively. Because Afghanistan's terrain is so mountainous and so hard to get to, some Afghani military bases or forts or what have you can only be resupplied by by U.S. transport. These Blackhawks and tanks and all this stuff, the mechanics left. Biden took everybody. He took all the mechanics. So even if there are places in Afghanistan that are holding out, that have some weapons and have some aircraft, they can't fix them. They can't get resupplied anymore. And America works in tandem. The U.S. military works in tandem. The soldiers go into a place and they rely they work in tandem with an air force. With not an air force, but with helicopters to come in and carry out the wounded, to resupply. So that's how they were trained. This is how the Afghan military was trained, to work in tandem. And the U.S. took out the tandem part. They can't do this by themselves. There's no way to do what they've been trained to do without the U.S. military. So they've been hamstrung.
And, sorry, I was looking this up to kind of try and get an image of the numbers. If I understand it correctly, it looked like before the total pullout, we only had about 2,500 troops.
Yeah.
Which is effectively the support structure for the Afghanistan army.
Yes.
And now with Kabul having fallen, it looks like we're deploying somewhere around 9,000 troops just to secure the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Biden's logic for why he had to pull out all of a sudden and pull out everyone, it's so maddening, is because he said that there was crises everywhere. There was crises elsewhere that needed to be addressed. And he didn't want Americans dying there anymore, which nobody's died in Afghanistan since February 2020. So what we're looking at is more of a military base that was supposed to be a place to maintain a status quo in Afghanistan, to be a place where people could come in on their way to Asia and these other hotbeds. Hold on, I lost my train of thought. Not done. Hold on. So that doesn't make sense. And number two, we have 800 bases all over the world. We have, let me see, I wrote it down in my notes. The USA has 34 military bases or facilities in the country of Germany alone. World War II ended in 1945. The bases are used as a stopover point for American troops. There's hospitals there for US troops, etc. So Biden's logic doesn't hold water because there's no reason...
Hold on.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to push back on the German thing that you just put there, okay? Part of the holdover for those bases is actually the rise of the USSR and the Cold War. That was the expected flashpoint, was there in Germany.
Right.
Because that's where we had the borderline between us and the Russians, and expecting a Russian push to take over Europe to start there in Germany. So
Yeah.
a lot of those bases are holdovers for there that we've then transitioned into, okay, well, the Cold War's not around there, so we don't have thousands of tanks stationed. But
Right.
we can use it as a transition point to get from
Right.
America, stop over in Germany, troops can have some downtime in Germany, and then over to Afghanistan. We did the same thing with the Korean War and Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
with how heavily we were stationed in Japan, and Japan being the stopover, safe point. Okay, we can, that's where we can bring our troops back for some rest. That's where we can, deploy more fresh troops into the war zones. So Germany has had a strategic point,
Right.
not just in World War II, but post-World War II because of the fear of Russian invasion.
Yeah, but my point is, I agree. That's all of that is correct and totally right. Yeah. My point being just that there's no rush to get out of Afghanistan because we're still in South Korea. We're still in Japan. We're in Belgium. We are in, let's see, where else are we? I had a whole list. There's a whole list. There's 800 bases. Granted, a lot of those are in the United States, but not all of them. There's tons of them all over the world.
Well,
So,
part of the challenge in that is also, though, that if we have a base in Afghanistan, and I'm playing devil's advocate, okay, with your train of thought, if we maintain a base in Afghanistan, we maintain a point in a hostile territory, because no matter what, there were still hostilities that were happening there. Our soldiers were still being shot at. Bombs were still being, set on roadsides. It's just we've gotten better of how we disarm and handle and deal with that. We've come to understand what our long term was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and this is again where I look at that first point that I brought up earlier, is the whole optics of pulling out of Afghanistan for the politicians, of being out of Afghanistan by the 20th anniversary. To be able to kind of have that feather in our cap of victory.
Yeah.
And, it's done. We're done. We're out of Iraq. We're out of Afghanistan. These long-term policing actions and long-term conflicts we've been in for 20 years are now done. It's all good, and I did it. And that's where I feel suspect with any politician. I really am going to camp out on that, any politician. Because they just wanted that feather in their cap. And I think that's why we did this extreme pullout. I think that's why we have gambled with the lives of Afghanis and why we have tossed out the fighting and sacrifice of our men and women over the past 20 years. And all of it, I think, is wrong.
Me too. Yep. Foreign policy abhors a vacuum. And China is licking its chops. Russia is licking its chops. Can't wait to get involved again. And, which is, Biden even said, which is preposterous, he said something along the lines of in his speech, well, China would like nothing better for us to stay funneling money into Afghanistan. What? No, that's dumb.
Well, okay. I'm going to speak. And before I say this,
I'm gonna speak.
I have been silent for the past 30 minutes, right?
I'm sorry.
I guess here's what I want to do. I really want to preface this in, this is not anything I have any kind of concrete, oh look, smoking gun. This is not me saying this is what is happening. This is me asking a question. Only a question that I have no answers to. I only have speculatives. I only have our past behavior to look at and say, So that is the whole thing. I'm prefacing and taking 5 minutes to say lots of prefacing words because I don't want this to be taken out of proportion into weird ways or to, I don't have my tinfoil hat down here anymore. I'm not one of those truly tinfoil hat people, but here's my question. Welcome to the first 42 podcast commercial brought to you by you, the listeners. Lindsay and I have been working on this podcast for a while now, and we're enjoying it. We're enjoying the feedback, the interactions we're having with you, our listeners, And we want to continue to grow that. We want to continue to work with you guys and to experience life together with you. So this commercial is primarily aimed at you guys of, hey, be a part of our conversation. Join us in social media. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at the 42 Podcast. Join us through the email of badtheologyproductions@gmail.com. And all of that can be found in the show notes now. Check out the YouTube channel. Leave some comments up there. Leave a rating and review for us on the podcast app that you use and listen to us with. That helps us not only understand what you're experiencing and engaging with this podcast, that helps us get more ears on this podcast, to get more voices in. And hey, if you want to join us, seriously, if you want to come on our podcast and talk with Lindsay and I, reach out, say hello. We'll say hi back. We'll have you on. And it doesn't take a huge setup to join us on the podcast. So, reach out through social media, get in touch with us, interact, because you are a significant part of everything we're doing. We want to have this as a community that is just exploring life in every way that we can. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of what we're planning, what we're building, what we're doing. You are important to us. Never underestimate that. You sitting there, I see you. You are important to us. So thank you for putting the time to listen and to join. All right, back to the conversation. In the 80s, when Russia invaded Afghanistan, we happily funneled money to the Taliban, to the fighters who were resisting the communists, and had a secret proxy war.
Yep.
That way. And there's a part of me that just kind of wonders of, is that maybe what's been happening to us now?
Explain.
Have our enemies, not just terrorists, but have our enemies been, funneling money, resources to the Taliban or resistance fighters in Afghanistan? And, while we have done some good things to bring westernization to the cities and regions of Afghanistan, is that maybe part of the reason it's been so long and extended?
Why not? Why not?
You say why not, and I'm cautious to say that because I have no proof. All I'm doing is asking a question.
I think anything that can happen does happen and will happen, especially when you have an 8th century ideology such as Islam and such as this brand of Islam. I think it would be silly to think they don't have a sense of solidarity with people all around the Middle East, at least.
Well, but even looking at it in a bigger picture of, okay, our enemies, and I'll say it directly, are China and Russia slowly funneling money to the fighters there, the extremists?
Well, yeah, because
to try and just slowly bleed us out, like we did to the Russians in the 80s.
China has been wanting to build some kind of mine in Afghanistan for a long time, but they couldn't because the area was so unstable. That particular area with this particular ore, I can't remember what the ore was, but they've been waiting for this. So to not funnel money into Afghanistan when you want something out of Afghanistan would be sort of silly. So I think it's just sort of common sense that they would be financing something, even if it's just to build infrastructure or roads or things like that, because there's that road that they want to build now.
Do you have a source on that?
I've got a bunch of stuff here. I can track down exactly, but yes, I do have a source. I couldn't read it to you right this second. I've got a bunch of stuff.
No, that's okay. If you send it to me, we can put that in the show notes and have that reference there. But I would be curious about that a little bit further.
And there's the road. Have you heard of that road that they want to build? They're wanting to build what's called the Belt and Road Plan or something, and they want to build a highway from a province in China through Pakistan into Afghanistan because they want to pull precious metals and ore out of Afghanistan. That's in conversation right now.
Yeah, send me the resources on that, because I'm curious. I don't know much about that, so I know, one of the largest products of Afghanistan, and this is because it's rural, it's a desert, and it's a hardy product, is poppy.
Really?
Yeah, I think something like 80% of, heroin that we have comes from Afghanistan.
So how can people not be funneling money into there, Rob? Of course people are funneling
Oh.
money into there.
Right, but there's a difference between the drug cartels funneling money into there to the farmers to get the poppies against a national government funneling money to
No.
extremist fighters
Why?
to...
I don't think so. Let's see.
I do.
Well, I mean, I think it's all connected. I mean, what I'm saying is the government is... governments can absolutely and have historically been involved with drug cartels.
Mm-hmm.
Who was this? I think it was I think it was Afghanistan. They straight up use the drug trade. It's like a part of their economy. I think China too. I don't know. But, so yeah, they're all working together. Why wouldn't they? Especially if there's no reason not to. They don't have the Constitution. Hi. What's up?
Oh, kid alert.
Sorry. I've been doing so much reading and watching videos and watching the news. My brain is buzzing, so I apologize.
No, you're fine. And this is a hot topic. I mean, this is still, I said in the beginning, a lot of this is still very fluid in what's happening right now, in what has happened over the past week, how much we know, how much we don't know. And, some of this I'm speculating on, and I'm cautious in speculation because I want to ask questions, but I don't want the question to become the source of knowledge. I want the question to be answered before it becomes the source of knowledge.
No, I don't...
Does that make sense?
No. I don't understand. I get the beginning, but that statement, I don't understand that statement, really.
There are times I feel like when someone asks a question, and just in asking that question, it then validates a suspicion or a thought,
Oh, okay.
and people run with it without ever affirming an answer to that question. It's just, oh, I'm not the only one who has thought this? Great. It must be true.
Yeah, no, it's just a jumping off point.
And that's where I'm cautious.
Yeah, and I agree.
Right.
I agree. I think you have to research. You have to research, and you have to go to many sources, and it takes a long time. Hey, that's almost a quote you said the other day in our fascism podcast episode. You said that it's a lot of work. This is a lot of work.
It is a lot of
due diligence and not just listening. Because I know for me, sometimes I'm listening to a report or listening to somebody speak, or listening to Biden talk, and I'm like, oh, well, he has some. Look at how serious he seems. It must be true. Look how much he seems to mean it. Look at how squinty he is. He must be so. Oh, either that or he can't see. But so it's important, I think, to follow to I hate to use the word fact check because I think it's getting really tired, but to fact check, and okay, if you're making a claim or if I'm making a claim, it's almost like your responsibility to prove me wrong or something.
Well, let's be entirely honest and upfront, where even with what we're doing here in this podcast with the 42, we're trying to sell our brand of thinking, of processing, of understanding. And that's what the world's trying to do. The news is trying to sell their brand of reactionism. The politicians are trying to sell their brand of social justice or interaction or pick your topic. They're trying to sell it to you. Whether or not they make money, they're trying to sell you on
right
what is their priority. And they would rather you be reactionary and just regurgitate,
okay, yeah,
rather than research,
yeah,
and synthesize. Because I think and this is where I was thankful for going and doing my master's. In doing my master's studies, it wasn't about being able to regurgitate the information I was given. It was about synthesizing the material I was given, processing, and then showing a line of thought from my end, as well as a line of thought in research that got me to my conclusions in the paper, or in the project, or the discussion.
Right.
And I think that's more valuable in the lost tactic we have, because everyone wants to sell you and get you to be reactionary. Because when you're reactionary, you buy it hook, line, and sinker, and then you just regurgitate.
Huh.
That's my soapbox.
And I don't even know if reaction is the right word, because I don't think... I get what you're saying, and I think I agree. But in a way, I think the mainstream media doesn't want you to react. They just want you to, like, stew or steep in the facts they're giving you and the ideology they're giving you. We want people to react. We want people to act, to do something based on the information we're giving. Or, you know what I mean? I think that's what all honest people maybe want is for... They have an idea that I believe is right. I want to try to convince you that my idea is right. So yeah, I am trying to sell you something.
But here's where I would push back with the mainstream media idea of, our media has become so politicized.
That's true.
If you watch Fox News, you're going to get a very clear and distinct spin from a conservative or a ultra-conservative perspective. If you watch MSNBC, you're going to get a very clear and distinct spin from a liberal or ultra-liberal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And they want you to react against that other group. It doesn't matter which side. They want you to think that those conservatives or those liberals, they're the problem. They're why. So you go and vote, or you go and protest, or you go and just make a post on Facebook that's inflammatory or reactionary.
The problem...
And just pushes an agenda a little bit further or a little bit further. And it doesn't have to be going and physically reacting. It can just be pushing that agenda.
Yeah. I don't like that. I know you're right, but I try not to think about that too much, or I try to find a source of news that just seems to be reporting, and if it's an opinion paper, they have it at the top in red ink, opinion. Because I just want to know what's really going on. I just want to know the truth. And honestly, I've never really enjoyed Twitter. I don't get Twitter. I don't get why people like it so much for entertainment. However, I've been on Twitter a lot because I want to watch the footage of these reporters that are on the ground, because to an extent, it's much harder to fake or spin things when you are rolling in the middle of the situation before their editor, before people get a hold of it. These people that are there filming things, that's about as close to the truth as I think we're going to get.
But then here's what happens is that next day, with that footage that's still raw, that's still real, they bring in commentators.
And I know that, but at least we get to see it first.
Well, and you even spoke to that with, while I was on vacation with, Biden's going to speak for the first time on this, and you were, I want to watch that. I want to watch it live before they start cutting and editing, and that speech that Biden gave real quick got twisted by both left and right on what he said, what he did, what he reacted, and everybody puts a spin on it.
So how do you know what's right then? You, Robert, how do you know what you think about an idea or a situation is right without referring to other people's ideas?
I don't. That is the scariest reality that I've had to come to terms with, is I don't. What I think today may be wrong, and I have to learn, understand, and grow. So the only way, and again, this goes back to what I said, the only way to navigate any of this as human is to continue to research, continue to read, continue to understand, and not put myself in a state where I have to be, because my political ideologies or opinion have to be right. I have to be in a state where I am growing. I may be wrong today and learn tomorrow.
Right.
Or a month from now. And I guess that's where I'm at with all of this, and have gotten to as a person, where it's, as a younger man, I had to be right. I had to be right. I had to. But now it's, no, I don't have to be right. I just have to acknowledge that I'm still growing. I'm still learning. Politics are shifting sand. And so what is politically expedient and correct today may not be tomorrow. So what's the deeper moral and ethical truths? And I find that in my faith and in my beliefs and in my
you're cool.
trying to be so holding that as the first means of check. Where it's okay, you know what? Maybe the way we invaded Afghanistan wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe. I'm not going to go too far into that. But what we have done over 20 years is build and set a commitment to the people of Afghanistan that in all of this, we were just like, hey, no, not really, bye.
That is the deeper issue. I think whether we should have been in there as long as we should have, I mean, like, I think our mission changed a little bit over time, which, that was bad. That was bad.
Well, let's also be honest. We got in there in October to go and find Osama bin Laden, who we found in Pakistan.
Yeah, he fled.
Over a decade later. Okay, something fishy's going on there, but, the mission changed. The objective changed.
It became about nation building, and,
whether we can admit that or not, morally and ethically, that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And before the nation was ready to stand, or even if they were standing, we pulled the chair out from under them.
And that's the core issue.
Because of political expedience.
Yeah. Sorry.
And that's going back just a step. I mean, that I think is part of the failure of the political system. And that is where I look, and I'm trying to, as a human, navigate this, where it's okay, again, what's the moral and ethical thing that is correct? Continue to support Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Find ways to bring peace where we can, to bring education, to bring stability, greater outreach, but not in lifting them up rather than using them.
Yeah.
And it's probably fair to say we use them, especially with what's happening now, and that we lifted them up only because it was expedient to us and our agenda. And it's not what should have happened. What should have happened is we just lifted them up. We helped them. We helped them build an economy, build a stable government, build and grow as a nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that on being right, it's got to be about growing.
Yeah.
I could be right today, but wrong tomorrow. And if I can't look and say that I was wrong as a young man or wrong today, then there's no point there's no point.
Yeah.
And I don't think our system does that. I think Afghanistan is a blaring example of that kind of failure.
And we did it, and that's not the only time we've done it. We did it to Hong Kong, and we did it to Taiwan. And now we've basically said to everyone in the world, you know what? We're not going to stand up for you. Sorry. We suck. We're not going to spare. We're not going to help you. So why also should anybody else want to be our allies? I don't think I would be raising my hand to be my friend right now. If I was anybody else, any other country.
Well, again, it's the politics that are expedient and quick to be the first one to get that soundbite, the first one to say, gotcha, you were wrong. And then when, it's my turn to be wrong, well, no, it was the other guy who's wrong, or it was the system, or
Yeah.
And we did that with Vietnam, we did that with Korea, we did that with the Gulf War, we've done that with the war on terrorism, Afghanistan, Iraq. Our pullout from Iraq was not as messy, but I mean, that was the rise of ISIS. And going into some of the things that happened with, I think it was the Arab Spring. And
Oh, yeah.
there were good things that came about that, and there were bad things that came about that, and it was messy. It is messy. But that's relation with any foreign country. That's relation with any foreign power. It's gonna be messy.
Yeah. Ugh. It's just heartbreaking.
The fall of Afghanistan is gonna be a hard stain for this country. At least for a generation.
Yeah, we have yet to see how Biden's presidency is going to finish. I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to go. What's going to happen to him if he's going to stay in power, honestly.
You want my honest opinion on that?
Yeah, I do.
Everything going on in Kabul will have greater effects in the midterm elections coming up next year. I don't think it will have as great an effect in the next presidential election. If
he makes it that long. His have you heard what Obama's ex doctor advisor guy? I don't get how you get that position, but he's been really pushing for Biden to step down or resign or something, or for him to be declared incompetent because of anyway, that's what he's saying, that he is not cognitively able to do this job.
I'm not going to weigh in on that one. I'm not a medical expert, and video clips can be twisted, so I'm going to stay out of that one until more medical experts weigh in and I can have a better understanding. But prospectively, assuming all is well, I think Kabul will have a greater effect on the midterm election and will not have as great an effect on the next presidential election. I could be wrong. There's still 3.5 years between now and then.
I think something else to consider is this isn't the only thing that's causing tension right now in the United States of America. The possibility of more mask mandates, the possibility of possible lockdowns, things like that is going to impact. I think people are done. So I think this in combination with Kabul spells some pretty bad news for Biden. Because I don't think anybody wants to end up like Australia. Which I would love to talk about Australia sometime too. Because, wow.
Okay, you're going to have to help me out. What's going on with Australia?
They're shutting everything down, and there's thousands and thousands of people protesting in the streets. Police officers are firing into rubber bullets and spray into unarmed crowds. Go check out the footage. It's scary. It's really scary.
And what are they protesting over?
The vaccine mandates and the lockdown mandates. They're locked down. You're not allowed to go outside and talk to somebody else. You can go to prison.
Are you talking about Australia or New Zealand?
Australia.
Huh. Alright, I guess I'll have to look that up, because I'm not aware of that at all. Alright, I'll check out Australia in the next week or so, and begin reading up on some of that. But, alright. So I got 2 things I do want to bring up. That are not related or politically charged at any point.
What?
I've got 2 people who would like to come on the podcast.
Oh?
And have discussions with us on 2 different topics. And I'm a little invested in it because it's right in my field of work and study. One person would like to come on, listener Kyle, and he would like to talk with us about acceptable church sins, like caffeine addiction,
Mm-hmm.
while we struggle with those who have other addictions and hurts and pains, and what that looks like to be the true church in ministry throughout the world.
Right.
I think that would be an incredible topic. What do you think?
I'm nervous about that one.
Why are you nervous about that one?
I'm still sort of fledgling in my feelings. So I don't know. It'll be good. It'll be a good conversation. I'm still emotional
See,
sometimes.
But I think your
about
perspective,
things.
I think your perspective, though, because of that, is incredibly important. Because it allows us, the church, to look and say, okay, are there areas where we're being glaring hypocrites, failing, or missing the mark?
Yeah.
I'm
afraid
you can't.
I'm gonna offend someone.
That's okay. That is perfectly fine. We're not in this to be the unoffensive podcast. Well, that sounds like a cool name now. The unoffensive podcast.
It sounds boring.
I think it's interesting. You gotta be snarky about it if you were to run a podcast like that, where you'd have to find every way to offend everyone. But anyway, and then the second one is another listener, Joey, who he is an old mentor and friend of mine from many years ago, and it'd be great to have him on to talk some youth ministry and generational differences and challenges, and yeah, because both you and I fall under that millennial category. I am just at the edge of millennial. So I think it would be good to talk with him with his years of experience and, Gen Z ministry, millennial ministry,
Mm-hmm.
what it is to be a millennial and what it is to be. Yeah, I think it would be interesting.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll have to get those lined up pretty soon. And, if you are out there as a listener and you want to come on and you want to join us, you have a topic that you want to discuss that might terrify Lindsay a little or a lot, reach out through social media.
And let's remind people we do a book club every couple months, and the book for next time is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So check that out, read it, so that when the podcast comes out, you'll be ready to listen and you won't have to wait or skip that episode.
Yeah, we did not do well with reminding people of childhood's end. We just were like, oh, we're going to do it.
Yeah, I realized
later, hey, we did it.
I have a friend in my church who, he's been listening to the podcast, which is so cool. He comes up to me and he'll refer to something in an episode, and that's just, it means so much to me that he cares. So, but he was saying, oh, I had to skip that episode because I hadn't gotten the book yet. And so we were talking about that book, and, so he's going to get the book and read it and listen to that episode. But I think it's good we need to remind people so they'll do that.
I have enjoyed our interactions with the listeners locally and distantly through social media, stuff like that. But I have to say, and it's the scariest listener for me, really is my grandmother listens to the podcast.
Mm.
So, hi, Grandma, if you're listening. And I got to see her while we were on vacation, and it's always entertaining sometimes the feedback she gives me.
It's always sometimes entertaining.
I'm still hearing about the swear word episode. Yeah. But, no, if you are a listener, though, you want to join us in some conversations, you have a topic you'd love for us to talk about, drop it. See what we can do. Because of our recording schedule, sometimes things are a little bit stretched out, but if it's good, we'll get to it. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
And hey, we'd love to have you on.
For true.
So, for true? Wow. Wow. No.
I know, I'm a dork.
All right. I don't know if we concluded with any great, standing ovation.
You did. No, it was you. It was you, but it was a while ago, so I mean, it was like 3/4 of the way in. Yeah, you slam dunked it. So, I think.
I did? Okay, sure.
Yeah, you did good. Good job.
All right.
You were eloquent.
Sorry, I still feel like there is more to talk about with this, but it's also just kind of at that point where it's now I think we need to let things play out a little bit further and maybe revisit
Yeah,
a month out from now or
Definitely.
so. Which, again, we want to do that 9/11 episode, so we might come back to this topic.
Maybe every once in a while we should just have a title, like a type of episode where this is a current events episode. Current events. Like, that's the episode. What's happening right now.
Yeah, okay. All right. I would be open for that.
Just a thought. Current events with a, what is it, semicolon? Kabul.
Yeah.
Current events.
Yeah, all right. I'm open to the idea. I hesitate because open events can sometimes be open wounds.
Not open, current. Current. Yeah. And it's okay.
Current events can sometimes be open wounds.
It's okay. It's okay to dig around in there. For one thing, I think this is how a lot of people process. I process by speaking, some, and I think other people are they're at home and they heard about this, they heard about Kabul, and they're washing their dishes, and they're just trying to figure it out too, just like us.
I guess that's very true. I mean, bringing it back to what I opened with, I mean, there were conversations with Ray, Grandpa Ray and I sitting in the car and talking about what we understand, what we know, and what we're seeing. It had my dad talking about when he was a child and was witnessing the drafts for Vietnam. It had me talking to my son about when I was a kid and watching the bombings and invasion of Iraq in Desert Storm 1 and what that was. And talking with him and allowing him to ask and process and understand. I guess that's a good point to bring it to. Of it's just talk about it. That's the best way to process it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And with that, I think I'm ready to sign off now.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, it's been good talking to you again, Lindsay. It's been 2 weeks, so yeah, I've missed this.
Me too.
So.
Adios.
All right. We'll see you.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the 42 podcast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe, and if you want to join in on the conversation, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter to add your voice to the conversation. Thank you.